Imagine for a moment you were bitten by a dugite and you are slowly dying. Someone then tells you to look at a bronze copy of a dugite on a pole in order to be healed and not die. Would you do it? Whether you do or not may very well depend on whether you believe that looking at that particular bronze copy of a dugite would actually save your life. Or perhaps because you were so desperate not to die, you would do anything someone suggested, especially since they didn't state that you needed to believe that this bronze dugite had the power to save you from certain death. Well, brothers and sisters, in today's first reading, we see the people of Israel rebelling against God in sin. God punishing them by sending serpents to bite and kill them, but then God also providing, through Moses' intercession, an anti-venom of sorts, in the form of a bronze serpent on a pole. Pope Francis, in a homily about the serpent that kills, said that it was mysterious. The Lord does not kill the serpents, he leaves them there. But if one of them should harm a person, the person looks at that bronze serpent and will be healed. In leaving the serpents there, God shows us that there is a consequence for unrepented sin. However, he doesn't will for us to die in our sin, and so he provides a remedy. So, on one hand, there was a consequence for sin, but on the other hand, God also provided a means to save the person from death, even using a sign of the thing that killed the body in the first place. All the Israelites needed to do was look at it to be healed in accordance with God's promise. While there is no mention of the people having to believe in the power of the bronze serpent, we may surmise that they may have had some belief, as it was they themselves that sought a remedy from God through Moses. If we stop and reflect on it for a moment, we may conclude that a skeptic would probably scoff at the suggestion that looking at a bronze serpent would stop them dying, not look at it and therefore die. So in a sense, a certain amount of belief is probably necessary for the effectiveness of the cure. In contrast, when we look at the Gospel of today, which is thematically linked to the first reading, Jesus says, "And the Son of Man must be lifted up as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him." Again, there is a lifting up on a pole of sorts, this time for the salvation of the soul and not the body. But this time, to believe is an essential requirement in order for the person to be saved. Brothers and sisters, the Oxford Dictionary definition of the word believe is accepting that something is true, especially without proof. So what is it exactly that we're asked to believe? Let's consider another gospel account. In Mark's gospel, we have the story of a man who approaches Jesus to help with his son who is possessed by a mute spirit. The disciples were unable to help him, so the father sought Jesus' direct intervention. Jesus responds to the father by saying, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes." Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." Again, what is it that we're asked to believe? Going back to that homily by Pope Francis, the Vatican website put it perfectly when it wrote of the Pope's homily. The serpent, the Pope clarified, is a symbol of sin, the serpent that kills. But the serpent that saves, this is the mystery of Christ. St. Paul, the Pope recalled, also spoke of this mystery. He said that Jesus emptied himself, humbled himself, annihilated himself in order to save us. Moreover, the Apostle offers an even stronger expression. He became sin. Thus, using the biblical symbol, we could say he became serpent. This, Francis said, is the prophetic message of today's readings. The Son of Man, who like a serpent became sin, is lifted up in order to save us. Brothers and sisters, the good news is that no matter the depth of our sin, no matter how far and for how long we've strayed from truth, goodness and beauty, no matter how many times we've rejected God and our own particular calling, Jesus has already taken on all of that sin, all of that venom, all of that which leads to our eternal death, when he emptied and offered himself up totally, despised, punished, dying, lifted up on the cross, as if he had committed all of those sins himself. becoming, as Pope Francis said, the serpent on the pole, so that in trust and faith and belief we may be saved from eternal death and be given eternal life in him. As St. John ends today's Gospel, for God sent his Son into the world not to condemn the world, but so that through him the world might be saved. That we may all say together, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief.